There's been a lot of attention surrounding Star Citizen and Squadron 42 recently, thanks to a massive CitizenCon presentation and impressive Squadron 42 trailer. But even watching popular content creators react to these trailers, it's clear that there's a lot of misinformation out there and just lack of knowledge as to what Star Citizen is and what it can already do.
Seamless transition from space to ground. Okay, then do it. Oh wow, holy shit. So we actually... What the fuck?
So I'm going to catch you up to speed, and hopefully by the end of this video you'll have a much better understanding of what the game is currently, what it's aiming to be, and perhaps why so many people have chosen to back it. So, Star Citizen was famously kickstarted by Chris Roberts in 2012, originally marketed as a rich universe focused on epic space adventure, trading, and dogfighting in first person. The game shot way past the original funding goal of $500,000 to well over $2 million. Cloud Imperium Games, the company founded to make Star Citizen, then continued to raise funds on their own website with stretch goals and ship sales as the vision of the game quickly expanded from a somewhat attainable space sim to a massive universe simulator. FPS missions on planets wasn't even part of the original vision for the game, but it was actually added as a stretch goal for the project, and it's arguably the main feature that has led to so much more tech development and delays over the years, but it's also the same reason that the project is now turning so many heads. The stretch goal and ship sales on the website was extremely successful, and when the game hit $65 million in stretch goal funding, CIG switched over to primarily funding the game through ship concept sales. Though they did still add more features as they built out the game, they just were no longer advertising more features in exchange for funding. Now, Chris Roberts actually mentioned that pre-production on Star Citizen began as early as 2010, which is easy to believe considering that the original Kickstarter trailer was pretty impressive on its own and had a lot of assets which actually made it into early builds of the game. However, Roberts had already begun to conceive the vision of this game back in arguably the early 90s when he developed Wing Commander. In 1997, he began work on the space sim Freelancer, which very much had a similar vision to the scope and scale that Star Citizen is aiming for, with a much more explorable and massive universe. However, that game, much like Star Citizen, shot past the original quoted release date and went over budget. Microsoft ended up buying Chris's company, Digital Anvil, and then scaling back the vision of Freelancer so that they could ship the game more quickly. Sadly, Freelancer did not live up to the original, extremely lofty expectations, though many gamers did still enjoy the space sim. After Freelancer, Chris left the game industry for a while and went into film production. And when Chris returned to the game scene many years later with his Star Citizen Kickstarter, not only was he pulling from his many years of game development experience and established fan base, but also his undeniable boyish passion for bringing his dream alive. And speaking personally, that's what attracted me to the project. It just seemed like Chris was very honest and nerdy about his passion for making his dream game, if not a bit overambitious. And I believe the same thing struck a chord with many other space game lovers, as the project has now raised over $622 million, making it the most expensive game project ever, and just frankly the biggest crowdfunded project period. CIG currently has around 1,300 employees and studios all around the world working on the game. Now, an often misunderstood aspect of the project is Squadron 42. Squadron 42 is the single-player campaign for Star Citizen. Originally, it was going to come as part of the overall Star Citizen package intended to be released together. But in 2016, as CIG realized that Squadron 42 was probably going to ship much earlier than the multiplayer universe was ready, they separated the game packages. Currently, the lowest buy-in price for a Star Citizen game package is $45, while Squadron 42 has been temporarily removed from the store, with many assuming that it's going to return as CIG begins to announce release date stuff for the game, and I'm sure it will have an updated price as well. Now, just like Freelancer, Star Citizen and Squadron 42 have blown way past their original projected release dates, and this is what led to a lot of the Scam Citizen controversy surrounding the project. Originally estimated with a honestly now laughable 2014 release date, CIG CIG has famously made many more terribly inaccurate launch predictions, announcing Squadron 42 with yet another 2016 release date, which was missed, and then in 2018 they said that the game would be in beta in 2020. Obviously, none of those dates were hit or even remotely close to them, and the media storm surrounding these massively missed release dates just started to swirl, and it's led to a lot of people not even realizing that Star Citizen's multiplayer has been a playable experience for quite a while and does contain many impressive features, some of which are not possible in any other game. Now that said, Star Citizen's multiplayer is in an alpha stage, it's very much unfinished and buggy, but it is still capable of displaying that CIG is actually achieving never before thought possible gaming tech, such as their zero loading screen planetary transitions at crazy high fidelity. This multiplayer mode is called the PU, aka the Persistent Universe, and it'll eventually become the MMO side of the game, though currently the servers are limited to around 100 players. This will potentially be improved on in 2024 as the game rolls out its server meshing tech, which is allegedly going to make this whole crazy idea possible. And while the game has been demoing spaceships and even basic space combat in downloadable modules since the very early days of development, for me, things started to get much more real in 2017 when they added the first explorable moons to the game and the Delamar mining base. This was the procedural planet tech, and it was very impressive, and I remember testing it with friends and confirming the truly simulated nature of the game. I fired my ship weapons from space down onto the planet's surface, where it was creating visible impacts to the players waiting below. There was no game engine faking here, and this is the tech that began to set Star Citizen apart from other game projects that were heavily reliant on smoke and mirrors to make it look like they could do somewhat similar things. CIG understood that faking their tech would only lead to more limitations down the road, and they wanted to do it right from the start and ultimately future-proof the project so that 10 years from now, they aren't limited and can instead just add to and refine the experience. Then in 2018, the first planet Hurston was added to the game that featured a major landing zone with trains and shops, and since then the game has been adding many more impressive locations and features to round out their first star system, Stanton. And now we're in the midst of testing the second one, Pyro. Now there are 100 different systems planned for the game, which you can actually explore on the Arc Star Map web user interface, which is actually kind of cool. It has a lot of lore and story behind each and every single system. Pyro will be the next system added to the game, with many people believing that Nyx will be the next system after that, and then Odin, which is the system in which Squadron 42 takes place. The size and detail of the planets in the game has been a major highlight for Star Citizen, with content creator Citizen Kate proving that you can even circumnavigate an entire planet on a hoverbike if you want to spend days doing that. Other incredibly impressive tech showcases have been the planet of ArcCorp that features an Ecumenopolis, a planet entirely covered in a single seamless city, and it looks incredible. Now, over the years, many other major hurdles were achieved and added to the Persistent Universe, like multi-crew spaceships where players could walk around a ship while it flies through space or over a planet or engages in combat. Massive scale ships were added to the game, and even recently, persistent tech was added, allowing all objects to remain where they are in the verse, well, somewhat indefinitely, creating stories of shipwrecks and crime scenes throughout the universe, discoverable weeks or even months later. The game has also released hundreds of different highly detailed spaceships and ground vehicles that players can actually fly and fight with right now. And this is one of the main highlights of the game, as every single ship feels more detailed than just about any other asset in any game franchise. The ships are designed and made with incredible attention to detail, their role in the universe, their lore, and players just can't get enough of them, hence the overall funding for the project. Now, currently, the multiplayer experience can involve running missions by yourself or with friends. These could be ground combat, space combat, delivery missions, racing, mining, salvage, and some other stuff. Exploration and sightseeing is also a major highlight of the gameplay, and also pirating and killing other players, or even bounty hunting criminal players. You can earn in-game money from doing activities and use that to buy new gear and ships, though the game's overall progression mechanics still leave a lot to be desired. Also, if you don't want to load into the game's persistent universe, you can access Arena Commander, which allows you to matchmake in TDM-style FPS missions. You can join into quick matches of multiplayer dogfighting. You can team up with friends to fight swarms of NPCs. You can practice racing on race courses, and there's even some tank missions and stuff like that being added as well. Now, the game's upcoming features, demonstrated at the recent CitizenCon, show that the game is aiming to remedy a lot of its gameplay shortcomings in hopefully the near future, and is also about to set a new visual standard for scale, realism, and seamless simulation with some impressive visual updates. This tech has taken a long time to develop, and frankly, it's not quite done yet, with server meshing and other really impressive tech hopefully on the near horizon. Squadron 42 is now feature complete and in the polish phase of its development, with most people anticipating a 2024 release date, but CIG has finally learned their lesson and stopped giving release dates for that game, this time with Chris saying that the game will ship when it's ready. But the gameplay demonstration does make it look quite close. And with that, it also appears that a lot of the team that has been laser focused on finishing Squadron 42 is about to bring many of those newly developed features over to Star Citizen's persistent universe, allegedly in the next 12 months. I'm certainly not holding my breath for all of those features to make it over, but certainly something will happen in the next 12 months, even if it is a fraction of what has been shown. It's probably going to be a pretty fun year for Star Citizen fans. So to wrap things up, Star Citizen is a playable game right now, although it is an alpha and will feel like one when you play it. Many of the things shown off in the new Star Engine demo are already in the game, including seamless planetary transitions that look incredible. You can get the multiplayer experience for $45 with a basic ship and then use that to earn all the other ships that you want in-game, with only a few exceptions. And Squadron 42, the single-player campaign, is not currently for sale or pre-order, but it looks like it might ship next year, with some rumors circulating that perhaps it'll be on console as well. I hope this video can serve as a good informer to anyone who's not intimately familiar with the project. And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to drop me a like, subscribe if you want to, and hit that notification bell to beat that YouTube algorithm with me. Up next, check out this video on Pyro, Star Citizen's next system. It's got a lot of visual eye candy, and I really enjoyed making it. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.